Let me read to you a passage from the 3rd chapter of St. Mark's Gospel, verses 7 to 12. It's the Gospel for Thursday of the second week in Ordinary Time, Year 2. St. Mark writes, Jesus withdrew with his disciples to the lake, and a large crowd from Galilee followed. When they heard all he was doing, many people came to him from Judea, Jerusalem, Idumea, and the regions across the Jordan and around Tyre and Sidon. Because of the crowd, he told his disciples to have a small boat ready for him, to keep the people from crowding him. For he had healed many, so that those with diseases were pushing forward to touch him. Whenever the evil spirits saw him, they fell down before him and cried out, "You are the Son of God." But he gave them strict orders not to tell who he was. That's from Mark chapter 3, verses 7 to 12. And what does it suggest to us? Well, you know, one of the advantages of having a true familiarity with both the Old and the New Testaments is that what is distinctive to each is more clearly seen. When on one occasion our Lord asked his disciples who the people said he was, the consensus which his disciples conveyed to him was that he was a prophet, a great prophet, and indeed one of the great prophets come back among them. Our Lord too saw himself in the line of the prophets. On one occasion, referring to his return to his hometown, he said that a prophet is not without honour except among his own. Again, when referring to his death, he said that it was not fitting that a prophet should die outside Jerusalem. But if we set Christ in the line of the prophets, it immediately becomes evident how he transcends them in prophetic power and stature. What prophet prior to Christ, or after him of course, did what he was doing in our gospel passage today? Immense and constant crowds were following him from Galilee. His fame spread beyond and drew people from Judea, Jerusalem, Idumea, and the regions across the Jordan and around Tyre and Sidon. Together with his preaching, there flowed from him effortless healings of all and any kind of ailments. Power and wisdom exuded from Jesus Christ to an extraordinary degree. Even demons were compelled to acknowledge him. We read that whenever the evil spirits saw him, we presume that Mark is here referring to those who were possessed by devils and who were driven to be their mouthpiece, they fell down before him and cried out, "You are the Son of God." Where in the Old Testament is there prophetic activity of this kind? Where do the demons acknowledge a prophet in these terms? Let us go beyond the ambit of revealed religion and pass to comparative religion. Where in the history of the world's religions can this be found? Certainly there is no equal to it in the life of Muhammad or Buddha or Confucius. Jesus Christ is unique in revealed religion and in human history. Yet, mysteriously, the response to Christ was so profoundly mixed. It is the mystery of created freedom. The crowds followed him, but in due course fell away when his teaching went beyond their limited minds. When he announced the doctrine of the Eucharist in the synagogue of Capernaum, in John chapter 6, laying it down that the one who wishes to live forever must eat his flesh and drink his blood, he lost very many of his disciples. It was too much, they said, and they walked no more with him. Our Lord's mass influence began to wane, and this was especially because of his word. The leaders of the people beheld before them a man of unassailable holiness. "Can any of you convict me of sin?" our Lord once challenged them. They saw before their eyes his works, which clearly placed a divine stamp on what he was doing and saying. On one occasion, he cured a helpless paralytic precisely to prove his divine power to forgive sins. But the Pharisees and leaders refused his teaching and mounted an orchestrated campaign to destroy him. He claimed that God was his own Father, and so made himself equal to God. He claimed to be Lord of the Sabbath. The Father and I are one, he claimed. Before Abraham ever was, I am, he said to them. Yet, look at who he was. Look at who he revealed himself to be by the grandeur of his teaching, the holiness of his life, and the power of his works. Our gospel passage today is one of many instances in which Christ shows how credible he was. But as I said, the response to him was so profoundly mixed and ultimately so profoundly disappointing. It was more than disappointing. It was utterly tragic. It left Christ, the man of the ages, dead on the cross. It was tragic in the sense that it was a tragic revelation of the power of sin in the heart of mankind and of all created reality. But by God's plan, this very rejection was the seed of a wonderful life for the world. In his very rejection, Christ won for sinful man a great and wondrous salvation. In the line of his wonderful works, as exemplified by today's gospel, his own death was the greatest. Let us place ourselves among the great throng watching and listening to Jesus of Nazareth. Better still, let us place ourselves at the head of them, in the front row. Better still again, let us place ourselves among his very disciples and contemplate his person. Let us gaze on his face, the human face of God, God the Son made man. There I am among the others, listening to this wonder of our race. He turns and gazes at me with a smile, inviting me to be his friend, a friend indeed who will hear his word and put it into practice. And so I now resolve to do that for love of him. He is my love and my life. I intend to love him and follow him to the end, and with his grace I hope to persevere.